Hey Maria, this on back again with Against Nature, Chapter 3. When I was 20 years old, I spent 13 months behind bars for dinner and weed. I was hustling all over Manhattan, making some decent money when I got stopped coming off the 4th train at 59th Street. Over a year in Rikers for a drug that now been discriminalizing in most states. A drug that about as harmful as a cheeseburger. It should have been probation, maybe some community service, but I was a kid with a sully last name and a shit attitude. My second week inside Rikers, I was approached by some white supremacists who implied protection. I don't know if they could have protected me or not, but I told them to piss off. Then I tried to befriend a fat black kid named Darius, who was doing time for crimes similar to my own, and seemed even more afraid than I was. When I sat down across from him in the cafeteria, his eyes went wide, like he knew exactly what I set in motion. I remember him glancing over his shoulder at the white table in the corner and refusing to meet my eyes. Darius stared down into his food and grunted one word answer to my clueless question. Later that evening, Darius was raped and I was beaten unconscious by those racist fucks. After being treated for concussions, internal bleeding, broken ribs, jaw, nose, and collarbone, I was returned to the general population. At my first meal back, I emptied my food into the lap of a named Stomper and swiped the metal tray across his face. The memory of the blood that splashed from his nose still thrills me. It was the dumbest and bravest act of my life. I blacked out from another beating soon after, deemed a death wish dance by the guards. I spent the rest of my stay either in the prison, hospital, or in isolation, which I suppose was my subconscious plan all along. You hear how the deprivation of solitary drives me into madness, but I found it rather peaceful, better than the anxieties of being around fellow inmates and the constant fear of rape and assault. I heard Darius hung himself in his cell some months later. There are only so many nights a man can be sodomized against his will. At the time, I couldn't figure out why he didn't fight back, resist, kick, bite, anything for compliant, even if it means a near-death beating. At some point, at some point, the guards had to protect you, if not from your assailants, at least from yourself. The box is brutal. It saps the sanity, but it's safe. In any case, I was released with the resolve never to return, and determined to teach myself skills that will help me defend myself against future attacks. Enter, I earned my black belt with daily trips to the dojo. For 5 years, I never missed a day. Even out of practice, it still filled me with confidence in the face of most any threat. The threat I learned to loaf and fear more than any other during those months inside white supremacists. They're worse than any bloody Crip or Latin king. They're the lowest form of humanity, the very worst of America. You see them on the news and all you can think is, who raised you? What pathetic and breed disgrace of genetic produced such idiots. I like to think I have a high tolerance for all manners of sin and bad behavior, but nothing fills me with more ref, re, re, revulsion than racist white trash. There is nothing supreme about the white race. I had my family as proof. I was rolling over these memories, allowing the rage to return. Who was this Oliver? Who was his anonymous keeper? His warning that Cass and I should be careful. That some things aren't worth it. Consider the challenge accepted. I stared out the window of the bus and watched the waistline of Jersey sweep by. The landscape turned green and hilly and newly lush as we connected to the New York Thruway to the New York Thruway and made our way past the suburbs and into the Hudson River Valley. My contact with Cass over the last 20 months has been subordinate. Since and entirely after Elvis died, I didn't appreciate being abandoned in a time of need. She loved her hound as much as I did. At the time, I considered it unforgivable when she refused to make the trip back to the city to help me bury him in the garden. I told her as much. It had been our last contact until her ill-timed text the night before. Julia had every right to her fury. I told her about Cass. Tried to put a detached spin on our relationship, but women see through that nonsense. She knew what we shared. She refused to believe we never slept together. It was impossible for a woman of Julia's appetites to fathom why not. She knew my partner meant more to me than she could ever, and that was not easy for her to accept. No matter how fat the envelope she left, I considered the cash I accumulated over the preceding months. It was nothing to her, but it would set me up for a while. I spent little while holed up at Cheese Cohen. I was a kept boy, a literal pool boy for her kid. I worked for that cash. There was plenty of nights I could have done without her carnal demands, but I've been up to the challenge every damn time. It only caused some dignity. Well, goodbye to all that. It was already a dream fading from memory. A peaceful interlude between the natural states of chaos that define my life. I miss Stevie though. The little fucker was a funny kid. A sharp, sly sense of humor for an 8-year-old, and smart too. If I ever had a son of my own, Jesus, Duck, really, the lewd bastard you are. I untangled my headphones from my jacket pocket and connected to my phone and spun through my library of artists. I needed something with a loveless edge. Found some libertines turned up, Can't Stand Me Now, and listened to Pete Doherty wow about how the world kicked back a lot fucking harder now. Ooh. It sure kicked Victor Wingate in the ass until he went right over the edge of a waterfall and died on impact. Dead or not, the guy had something I envied. He won the affection of Cass. I didn't think it was possible, or in my arrogant haze, I considered it only possible with myself. I always thought she'd come around someday. I understood her like no one else. At some point, Cass would grow jaded of the kinky freaks that lined up to pay for her beatings at the dungeon. She needed an honest relationship, one built on friendship and mutual unbreakable bonds. Like, in our case, a pair of bullets we taken for each other at different moments in our lives. Even as she never allowed a single kiss, not even that extra bit of eye contact that said she was considering it. I never doubted I was the one for her. The alcoholic ego, it unsurpassed. Instead, my partner abandoned me and fled to the country and found someone else. A has-been writer, nothing special to look at, based on his book jacket photo. So he won the writer's lottery when his one book was turned into a movie, a good one no less. Probably set up the lucky prick with a nice spot in the woods, all paid off with leisure to write a little as he pleased. The bus stopped in Kingston, and the driver informed us that we had 10 minutes before continuing on upstate. There was a diner across the lot from the bus station. I walked over in hopes of a liquor license. At last, it was only beer and bad wine available at the stadium diner. There was a loose collection of fat local spreads in the booth. A few travelers grabbing a quick bite at the countertop. I leaned between two of them and ordered 3 bottles of Beck. Sucked at the second one. With 3 minutes to spare, I slipped the third green bottle in my bag. I left the 20 on the counter and lumped back to the bus. At the nadir of the McKay case, my left child was surreal with both cutters at the hands of an evil old friend. I could never I'm reading too fast, y'all. I could no longer point my toes or rotate my ankles, which made swimming especially difficult. My kick was ruined. I kept vowing to get back into the water on a regular basis. The doctor informed me that that would be the best rehab of all, but I lost the feel, and that has a looser thing to get back. Besides, I've been getting my chlorine fixed through my lesson with Steve. I wasn't doing much more than standing in a waist-deep water offering some pointers, but it was better than being dry. That same case also left me with a number of scars down my face, courtesy of an echo knife and the bite of a raven lover. I grew out of a beard and tried to forget about them. Clean shaven, it looked like streaks of tears burned down my cheeks. But the scarf covered the worst of it. Julia offered her plastic surgeon if I ever wanted to try to laser them away. I told her I liked the reminders. I cracked my third back at the bus roll out, picking up the dirt throughway again, pulling me to task and all the intense baggage that came with her. We exit at the town of Socrates, took a wide left and quick right, and the countryside opened itself. The Catskills Mountain rolled along the western horizon. The magic hour light touched them just so, giving the hills a blue glow that could stir even a banker's black and white soul. I understood in a guilty instant why Cass had decided to stay. It was everything the city was not. Green and open and quiet with the money, what there was of it. Well hidden behind gravel drives. The coach drifted to a stop in front of an inn called Kindred Spirits. I remember a painting of the same name in the New York Public Library and had an unpleasant flash of memory from the richer boyhood days when my mother would walk me through the grand spaces of the city, pointing to the masterpiece of art and architecture. I banished it, took a last sip of the beck, and staggered to the front, thanked our driver, and stepped off into the spring evening. She was waiting alongside an old white Land Cruiser. I cursed the lump in my throat, the familiar ache in my jeans responded. I moved towards her. She was wearing a long-sleeved black dress, black boots, straight dark hair framed her harlequin face. All that was missing was the long black veil. Her painted red lips tried to turn up into a smile. They only got halfway there. You made it, she said. You knew I would. It's good to see you, Duck. She came in for a long hug. Our first contact in 20 months, and I felt nothing but cold weariness from her. Our cheeks touched. We kissed at the ear. She released me, took my inventory. I like the beard, she said. It suits you. Cover some scars. She nodded, lips pressed at the memory. I looked over her shoulder at her new ride. What happened to the bands, I asked. Had to trade it in, she said. Couldn't handle the mountain roads in the winter. You love that thing, so did I. An 81 silver sedan, 3000 SD turbo diesel, burgundy interior, a classic. She ran it on vegetable oil, cared for it like a pet. Traded it in, it seemed criminal. She shrugged, straight trade with a local collector. He'll take good care of the old girl. We walked over to the Land Cruiser. I had to admit it had a certain rugged appeal. Besides, she said, I'm falling for this beast just as hard. An 200,000 miles and never had a single issue. These things are legend. That was as deep as we could go. Car talk for the reunion. She pulled out of the lot ahead of the bus, turned right and headed up the mountains. The beauty of it kept me silent. She wooed up through the pass, past the towering green and flowing springs and waterfalls, falling heavy with the winter milk. Spring came late to these parts. Patches of fading snow were still visible. I rolled down the window and let the cool wind rush over my face. A pack of hikers huffed up the side of the road to their car. Above, rivers of white clouds decorated the darkening sky. The whole scene had an air of unreality, like a stage set, waiting for an unseen director to shout action and send a pair of sleek sports cars burn down the mountain in a high-speed chase. I met Victor down in the Woodstock Castle stand, getting coffee and at bread alone. I was holding a book and he complimented me on it. It was by Jim Harrison. He was a fan. It turned out we both had family in the UP. I thought you were from, I stopped and realized that I didn't know. Cass had never been one to share personal history. Baltimore, she said, that's where I grew up. But I had an aunt and uncle with a place way up north on Michigan Upper Peninsula. Spent some summers there. So did Victor. His grandparents had a cabin in the UP not far from my cousins. He was older than me, so we couldn't have overlap. But I don't know that how we got to talking. Waiting in line at the Woodstock coffee shop, holding a paper bag, and already the bastard knew more about her than her partner of how many years. Partners that have seen the worst together, come close to dying more than once. What was it called? I asked. What's that? The Harrison. What book were you reading when they picked you up? She gave me a sideways glance and let it pass. It was called The River Swimmer, she said. I'll lend you my copy at the house if you want. It make me think of you. Shocking. Cass made a face at the accelerator past a struggling pickup in the right lane. You do realize I'm the bereaved here. Stop acting so hurt. It's weak. Now, how you feel about weakness in men? Yeah, they deserve a beating. He like that. She ignored my baiting, took the hairpin turn with practiced grace, slowed at a pacing waterfall as we crossed a narrow bridge. Up there is Cactus Field Falls, she told me. It's beautiful, but hikers have become a nuisance. A few fall, die every summer. I stared out the window and missed the city. I wasn't interested in sweating and trudging through dirt and rocks to gawk at visitors. Give me a damn light bar. Good music. Amber scrolling in my glass.